Since 1992, Genesis House has been helping real people heal from addiction on their private recovery campus in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. Their family-owned program is accredited by the Joint Commission and offers detox and dual diagnosis treatment in a comfortable and confidential setting. At Genesis House, they focus on treating the underlying causes of addiction. Their comprehensive approach includes psychiatric care, individual and small group therapy, trauma healing techniques, and holistic care including yoga, massage, and animal-assisted therapy. After treatment, their clients enjoy the lifelong support of a nationwide network of Genesis House alumni. Call Genesis House today at 1-800-737-0933 to speak with someone who understands. Visit them on the web at www.genesishouse.net. It's time to start your journey to a long and successful recovery.
Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is brought to you by the Friends in Recovery community, a thriving network of individuals who are fighting back against the stigma of addiction. Join our hosts as they speak up about the real issues of addiction, treatment, and recovery. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, here are your Friends in Recovery.
Everybody, welcome to Friends in Recovery podcast. I am the Podfather, Mike Miles, and I'm here with my good friend, Jersey Ed.
Podfather?
Yes.
Is this the right show? What show is this?
That's right. Who do we have in the back seat?
Who's that guy back there?
Hey guys, this is Jesse.
Jesse is a good friend of ours.
Jess?
He's been on the podcast in the past.
Yeah, he has. Yeah.
And he's had his own
Glad to be here
podcast.
today. Yep.
So FIR from the car, guys.
FIR from the
Yeah,
car,
here we are.
Yeah, here it is.
from the old beat up 2004 Cadillac.
Yeah, you got to know the year, make, and model of the car.
Pretty
Why
nice,
not?
though.
I didn't know what the fourth step was. You know
So-
what? We do a step meeting on Tuesday nights, and this past Tuesday we did the fifth step.
Yeah.
But we were talking about the inventory list, making
Yeah.
a list, you know, and that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because the fourth step, word for word, verbatim says, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Now, if you're not going to write down your fearless and moral inventory, you're going to forget a lot. So that's where my head was at.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, we forget. We're getting old. We forget. So.
and I just want to mention my second edition, printed in 1955, the year after I was born. Alcoholics Anonymous, second edition.
Goody.
And I bought this at a yard sale for $2. And
Great find.
yeah, it's really chock full of nuts. What I did find as well is any big book out there from 1939, when the first edition was printed, to the present, the first 156 pages are word for word verbatim. Nothing's changed there. There are changes in the big book.
Yes. Stories. All the stories.
Stories added. Yep. And what I fear is, and I hope it doesn't happen because there's no place for it. Although I could understand, they don't say men and women. They say man. They're referring to men and women. They do mention women in particular in a lot of these stories, but in the book itself, when they're talking about alcoholics, it's mostly men that they discuss. And I think that might change.
Well, when that book was written in 1956, women were, don't forget, guys, and I don't mean this in a bad way to all the women out there, they were housewives. That's what they did. That's what their profession was. And men went out and did their thing.
Yeah.
So men had more exposure, right, to the outside world. Don't get me wrong. The women were probably drinking at home because the men were out doing their thing and they were getting loaded up in the house, putting up with kids and in the housework and all that stuff. But it's a different world now.
Right.
It's a different world now. Thank God it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an equal opportunity world now.
Right.
So.
And let's not forget, if we go all the way back to 1939 when that book was first written.
Yeah.
Bill kind of stretched the definition of men and women in the beginning. Did some research, and I think there was where he says 100 men and women.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I think there was 99 men and
Yeah.
one woman. There was
That
this
wrote
thing
the
I watched
book.
on the first woman in
Woman
AA,
in-
right?
Yeah.
Right.
He wanted to be all inclusive, and,
Yes.
and the majority of the women were there. I would love to be a fly on the wall,
Yeah,
or had
sure,
to be back then,
sure.
where all these guys get together and tell their wives and girlfriends,
Yeah.
hey, I'm going to this AA thing not to drink.
Yeah.
Right.
Meanwhile, can we swear on this?
Yes, you can swear.
Meanwhile, their house is a shit show
Yeah.
and life's a shit show, and they don't believe him. So, like, to hell you are.
Right.
I'm going with you.
With other alcoholics.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
where Al-Anon started.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because all these wives and girlfriends didn't believe them,
Yeah.
thinking they're just full of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they show up and eventually, like you said, they do it. Some of them identify with their own drinking problems.
Yeah. A little history about the third tradition, and we'll get into the fourth step in a minute, but the third tradition, which we did a show last month on. If you go back a couple of shows and listen to the third tradition, it's the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking.
Right.
There's a reason behind it. If you think back in 1939 when this book was written and all the traditions were written, maybe a little bit later they were written, is that women, blacks, gays, they were all outcasts.
Mhm.
I mean, at that time in the 30s and
Right.
40s, the blacks had to use separate entrances.
The women did too.
Women had to use them. Different
Nightclubs
water
and bars, right.
buses. I mean, Rosa Parks. She made her big, her big thing with
Her
the
big debut.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Thank God. Now we're all hopefully getting on that equal plane now.
Oh,
But
we're on the equal plane now.
but that whatchamacallit is that tradition was he wanted to write it to make sure
Right,
everybody
right,
was
yeah,
able to
right.
come to an
The
AA
only
meeting.
the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop.
Exactly.
Bill was ahead
Right.
of his time.
Yeah,
No
yeah.
dues or fees, fair
Yeah.
membership, not self-supporting through any contributions.
And if you read into that tradition a little bit deeper, only you can say yourself you're an alcoholic,
Right,
and only you
right.
can get yourself out of a membership. Nobody else.
Right.
You can't tell me that I'm
Right.
not an alcoholic.
Well, I like what it says too is, we're not affiliated with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or
Or
institution,
religion.
Yeah, or religion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's important to say,
Yeah.
to know too,
Yeah.
because when you read any of the literature, whether it's the steps or the stories, how it works, the family afterwards, whatever, what I find is it's incredible how inclusive they make just about every thought I've ever had as an alcoholic and a drug addict, as a man. They enhance your thinking. It's almost like they could perceive because of who they were,
Yeah.
how we were thinking,
Yeah.
and what was on our mind,
Yeah.
and what things bothered us, and what things pleased us.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It really is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, the first 165 pages, 160, whatever it is,
64.
164 pages have not been changed
Mhm.
since this book has been written.
Right.
There's a reason for that. We were just talking about that. And there's a reason for that because
It's a
it is
guide.
written.
It's a
Yeah.
guide,
It's a guide. These guys had such a vision into the future that this doesn't change. You know what I mean? And thank God it doesn't change
Right.
because we're who we are because of this book that Mike had. And the steps are really important too. If you don't work the steps, you're gonna get far. If you go to meetings, you have a sponsor, you could get far, but spiritually, you're not going to grow if you don't work these steps.
Nope.
Andy, you're going to be happy.
Right.
And yeah,
Right.
you're gonna have fear. You're gonna have because I didn't work the step.
Insecurity,
Yeah,
right.
I didn't work the steps for a while, guys. And I was wondering why the fuck is my life so it wasn't bad, but
Right.
why am I fearful? Why am I always afraid of making moves for money and why am I trying to seek happiness all the time?
Why
right?
am I still chasing people past my exit on the highway?
Exactly. Yeah,
Right?
yeah. That
That's-
too.
that's-
Fuck yeah.
That's a good
haven't done that in a while.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
I've done it.
Yeah.
I've done it.
Yeah.
road rage.
You know?
So
Oh,
I'm cut me off on the way here. And
Yeah.
for a split second, I gripped the wheel and I thought, should I cheat? No, you know what? I don't know. I was listening to a speaker tape. I don't know if that's what you call it all over the place, wherever this is going to be viewed, but any AA recovery 12-step audio, I guess this could be considered a speaker tape if someone's listening to it driving.
Yeah.
It's a great thing to listen to while you're driving. It keeps me centered,
Oh yeah.
hearing the message. So,
Exactly. And you know what? It's great to have the Podfather back. We have a good crew on our podcast now. The Podfather was retired, and he's writing a book. That's the reason why you haven't seen him on the podcast.
New information, guys.
Yeah,
I
you're
didn't
just
know
hearing that now.
Excited.
Carl can cut that part out if you want.
No,
But,
no, that's fine.
Tease it.
but yeah,
Tease
exactly.
It, make everyone want it that much more.
So
I want
he's-
a copy.
A lot of work.
I want
you
a
know?
signed copy.
Yeah, so that's why you guys haven't seen the Podfather. We're smoking cigars today, guys. So grab a cigar. Ladies too, grab a cigar, and we're gonna start talking a little bit about the steps and the
Right.
fourth step and what
And
it kind of
Right now, I just want everyone to know we are currently at Studio 21, but we're outside.
Yeah.
We started doing our podcast at Two Guys Smoke Shop, Route 28, Salem, New Hampshire. They have a podcast studio, second to none.
Yeah,
Really nice
Probably
podcast
$250,000 worth of equipment. And we started our podcast there, and we sat and talked about what's a podcast. We didn't know what a podcast was. What
No.
are we going to name it? Friends
Yeah.
in Recovery. Yeah, we came up with that.
Yeah.
And then we did it, and we, I think we held true. And it wasn't always easy to do the podcast because we had to come here, number one, and it had to be paid for.
Yeah.
So we didn't have any sponsors. And then there was a time we got away from here. We went to another studio out in Beverly.
Yeah.
Sweet studio. And that was a little more reasonable. The only thing was, for me, it was every Saturday was like a wash. I had to be in Beverly for 8 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't leave there till 2:33.
it was tough.
Doing 4
Long day.
podcasts.
Yeah.
It sucked. I was just getting turned off by it.
But it was a dedication to your recovery, though.
Yeah.
And dedication to the people who were watching and everything. But Mike had it. Mike, like you said, you're writing a book now, and recovery, guys, is about balance in your life. When enough is enough.
Right.
Like Mike said, I really don't want to do it anymore. And Skylar and Tiffany right now, who's on the show,
Yeah.
are doing an amazing job.
Great job,
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they certainly
Oh
are.
yeah, it's just amazing job. But what Mike is talking about, if you go back to the first show, you'll see the studio. Probably the first 2 years of the show,
Yeah.
you'll see the studio he's talking about.
I'd say the first 125 episodes of Friends in Recovery, going back to 2018, 19.
Yeah.
We're all podcasts
Yeah.
out of
We're
studio
on this
21.
this show. This show is over 200, but we have over 200 videos on shows now that we've
Right.
done. So we're on our fourth year of the show.
It's amazing.
And that's weekly, guys. We do this show weekly. So that's dedication to our recovery, and guests like Jesse that came on and here today.
I came on in the fancy studio, and here
Yeah.
I am
In the
back
car,
at
in the
the-
FIR from the car. Yeah. But the FIR from the car is always, people love it because it's raw. We just get out there. It's not really produced. This is it, man. Once we turn this camera off, that's it. It's going to be recorded this way,
That's great.
except for a couple of intros and outros, but that's it,
And it's a lot of fun. We have a great time. My oldest daughter, Michelle, is always, the first 2 years, every Tuesday, the podcast it wasn't live, but it'd be ready to go every Tuesday night.
Yeah.
And she would text me every Wednesday or and she's been on my podcast,
Yeah.
Michelle.
Yeah.
She raised 2 unbelievable children. She's an unbelievable daughter. I have wonderful children, all 3 of them, and a daughter-in-law. And a new granddaughter coming.
and all the
2
ones he
great
doesn't know
children.
about either.
Yeah. I don't think, hopefully there's none of that. You never know.
I haven't come after you yet.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
exactly. Yeah.
But my birthday is Sunday. I'm going to be 68.
Happy
Proud to
birthday,
say that.
Father. Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Today's the, what is today? The 7th?
Something like that. Yeah, this will go out in the
3
next
more
day
days.
or so. Yeah,
3 more days.
Yes, exactly.
So,
exactly. So
Go ahead.
No.
No. So step 4, the 12 steps of recovery, it just said that not being in the steps, you're really missing out. If you're in recovery and you're sober, good for you. I think the first 90 days, my own personal opinion, steps are great. The first 90 days, go to discussion, open discussion meetings, because you're going to feel comfortable, you're going to be welcomed, and you're going to listen. Just sit there and listen. Put some tape on your mouth, open your ears and listen. But make sure you want to stay sober, do it the right way. Go to 90 meetings in 90 days, build a foundation. You're going to have a nice foundation. Try to meet some nice people. You want to find a sponsor. It doesn't mean you have to find a sponsor right away, but it's a good idea after 90 days, maybe to find a sponsor, somebody from the meeting that that you trust.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell them your deep dark secrets or her your deep dark secrets, but you can glean a lot of information.
Yeah.
Just real quick on the steps, getting to the steps. I didn't start doing the steps until I was 18 months sober.
Mhm.
However, I had gone to step meetings probably when I was 9 months sober.
Yeah.
But I would go and read, and honestly, I loved what I was reading. I loved when they came to me, I'd read, and I sometimes I'd stumble over the words because some of the words I just had never seen, I had never spoken, but I always felt better leaving that step meeting. And I had panic and anxiety really bad. I mean, really bad. I was crippled by it. I couldn't drive. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep.
Wow.
Yep, it was really bad. And you know what? I won a step book at a meeting, a pocket-sized one, and a lady in AA, her name was KK. She said, Mike, read steps 1, 2, and 3 every day when you get panic or anxiety.
Yeah.
When you're panicked or you have full-blown anxiety, read steps 1, 2, and 3. And I can honestly say there were some days I would read steps 1, 2, and 3, 7, 8 times. It took me 13 minutes to read all 3 steps.
Yeah.
And I would read them again sometimes.
Yeah.
And finally, I'll just say this. Even after reading the steps 2 or 3 times a day, every time I'd read steps 1, 2, and 3, I'd find something different.
Yeah.
I'd feel something different, and it really embedded in my mind. I run a step meeting on Tuesday nights, and I have for the last 2 years at Crossroads Recovery, Salem, New Hampshire. And you know what?
Not a paid sponsor.
No, not a paid sponsor. And
But if Mike's running it, it's probably a good
Yes, exactly.
It's a great place.
Yeah.
But I got to say, doing that step meeting, when I say doing it, facilitating it, just passing out the books, being there, getting it going, I still get a bang out of it.
Oh yeah. Well, and you know what, Mike, you brought up a good point. When it's time to work the steps, it'll be time to work the step. 18 months, 2 years. It took me about 2 years, maybe over 2 years to start working the steps. It really did. I mean, the fog doesn't clear. You want me to fucking give up drinking and then fucking work the steps? Like, I just have to get through like the first 90 days, the first year, the first, it's in the, there's no time limit to me. Again, let me make this clear too, guys. This book that Mike has, right? This book and the new books and all the steps in here are just a suggestion. That's it. It's not a requirement. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. That's it. But
that is
the people who came before us, Mike's sponsor, Jesse's sponsor, my sponsor, who teach us a lot about this book and these steps, they suggest we do it this way because that's how they got sober. And guess what, guys? Their sponsors and their sponsors and their sponsors got sober this way. And again, it was just a suggestion. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? That's how we have to look at it.
I was just thinking that too, Ed, about our sponsor. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you can go back in your sponsorship lineage, 4, 5, 6, 7 generations. I had a sponsor once and that's another thing too we should bring up. It's not like you're stuck with that sponsor.
No.
If life happens and you move away, your sponsor moves away. You don't have to move with them. You can, right?
Honey, I'm moving. My sponsor's moving to
I gotta
Minnesota.
go.
Yeah.
You can get a new sponsor, right? I personally have had 4 sponsors in my recovery, and each one of them I've learned from.
Yeah.
And I had a sponsor who could trace his sponsorship lineage all the way back to someone in that book.
Wow.
Someone, Jim R., I believe his name was. He wrote a story that's in the 4th edition Big Book, and it was pretty cool when they all got together. And I think the highest number of sobriety years went to this guy that was like only 2 generations from that guy Jim in the book.
Wow.
So, and all those guys did the steps, and they were all reasonably happy, right?
Yeah.
At some meetings, and cut me off whenever because I'll just talk this whole time. Some meetings you hear about insanity, right? We've all heard the definition is to do the same thing over again, expecting different results. I roll with a different definition of insanity, that insanity is joining a 12-step fellowship like Alcoholics Anonymous and not doing the 12 steps.
Yeah.
Just to suggest, you don't have to, like Ed said, it's a suggestion.
Yeah.
But the reason why we have a book, the reason why we have meetings, if you go all the way back to the beginning, was to come around and talk about a solution.
Yeah.
Now, not every meeting is solution based.
No.
And, if you don't like the meeting, you can find another one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I personally was at a meeting last night. They're all God's kids, not bad mouthing anyone, but this lady went on a little too long about her dog that died. Sad about her dog that died. But the whole fucking meeting was about her dog that died.
Yeah.
And I don't have a dog. I've never had a dog.
Yeah.
I have alcoholism.
Yeah.
I need a solution.
Yeah.
And that's what we find in the steps.
And that's what we find in steps. And my sponsor always says, if you know, if you have a question, if the answer isn't in this book, you'll find it in this book. You know, you'll find the answer in this book. You really will. There is so much information in this book that if you take time to read it. And Tiffany on our show, who on our normal podcast, she knows this book inside and out. She's 2 years sober. She wouldn't mind me saying it, but this woman knows this book inside out. I'm asking her questions about the fucking big book and all that and the steps and everything.
We have a new client who just came to Crossroads, just a couple months sober, and exactly, a little over 2 months. But she has her book with her. She was in treatment for at least 30 days. It might have been more, but she is so into the program now, and I'm watching her. And I gave her a book yesterday called Living Sober, the yellow book.
Yeah, Living Sober.
You know, when I first got sober, I was dying. I got out of treatment, and I wasn't going to go to meetings because I was a cop. I didn't want people to see me, and so I didn't. I didn't go to meetings for the first 27 days.
Yeah,
and I was miserable. I wasn't ready to drink, but I was just crazy. I was ready to explode. Yeah. And Arlene said to me, "You know what? You haven't gone to those meetings they talked about. You should go."
Yeah.
And I went to my first Monday night meeting, Christchurch United. I've been a member there for 35 years.
Wow.
35 years.
Wow.
And I've been sober 35 years. And I don't say that bragging. I'm just saying, you want to get sober, it can be done.
Yeah.
I was a full-blown alcoholic, cocaine fiend, drug addict. I mean, I did it all. And you know what? I loved it. I loved every moment of it. The misery sucked, but I didn't realize how deep I was in until I got sober. Yeah. And I looked at all the opportunities I blew, all the people's lives I had upset, you know, and, you know, to this day, I still have remorse. But if it wasn't for the steps, if it wasn't for making amends and going to people and telling them that I was sorry, truly sorry, not because, you know, I wanted them to feel better, because I wanted myself to feel better. Yeah. And, you know, they say that some people won't accept your apologies. I've never seen that. And I've never even heard it. I've seen it on Seinfeld once, you know, but most people are more than happy. If people care about you, they love the fact that you're getting better, that you're even thinking about what you did to them, and you feel better.
But my sponsor always tells me, Eddie, it's none of your fucking business what other people think about you. You got to keep your side of the street clean. And you do what you have to do for you. If they come, if they come around, they come around. If they don't, it's okay too, you know? And again, that's what this book teaches us. The steps teach us and everything that we're going through in life, everyday life, you know, we as alcoholics and addicts, we're a completely different breed, you know? I don't know. Is there a book like this for like the normal people out there? Do they have a book? Like, I don't think so.
There is. I never heard of it.
I never heard of it either. You know, my wife doesn't walk around carrying one of these books. No. I carry this book. Well, not this one, but Podfather said he was going to will this book to me, but I carry my big book. Yeah, you did, right? I carry this in my step book whenever I travel, and these books give me the answer. The podcasts give me the answer.
I have a book on my commode. I was looking at. I read it every day. It's called Day to Day, and that's what it is. And it's the date in it is November 7th, 1986. I was still in treatment. I had gone October 17th, 1986, up in Centipede, New Hampshire, Seminole Point. And in their gift shop, I bought a book, Day-to-Day book. And that book is so funky. It's got duct tape on the binder because it's so old, but I've been reading it every day. I know as soon as I open the page, I see the title. I know the words verbatim. I've read them at least 35 times.
Yeah.
Because every day it's a day-to-day book. Yeah. I read it every day. I have a new book called Jesus Calling, and I'm not trying to freak anyone out, but it just takes the Bible and the Psalms and all the verses and breaks them down so we can understand them.
Yeah.
I have that book too, man.
Yep. And I read that every day. And I send copies of the page I'm reading to my children, because there are people that walk around carrying a Bible and they read the Bible every day. You don't see a lot of them, but they are out there, and that, good for them. If that's working, wonderful. Yeah. But I don't think you can have. I've seen sobriety. I've seen long-term sobriety with people that white knuckle it, that don't go to meetings, that just quit drinking, and they're still crazy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I know a guy. I won't mention his name. He was a supervisor of mine. He was a police captain. And when I first got sober, he saw me praying one time because I was having a panic attack and I couldn't drive. And I was in my little garage with the door closed, and he just walked in me. I was on my knees begging God to help me. I had to drive to Methuen from Lowell. And I was petrified to drive. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm just praying." He goes, "What are you, nuts?" Christ said, "Just because you quit drinking doesn't mean you're going to start being a Jesus freak." I said, "Well, I'm not a Jesus freak. I just..."
So it gets me through, right?
But he stayed, to this day, he's still sober, but he's miserable. I wouldn't want his sobriety. You know what I mean?
No. My quick question. All right. You mentioned you're a cop. Everybody knows that, or maybe the new viewers don't know that, but you were a cop. You retired at a Lowell, and you helped many people, many officers. Jesse was one of the people. Yeah, he helped Jesse. Jesse was a
Mike,
client.
as you were saying, you went into treatment October 17th, 1986. I was thinking I was born October 20th. You almost spit his coffee out.
Hey, don't blame that on me. All right? I don't even know you.
Hey,
wait a minute.
We're
You guys
talking
look
about
familiar.
He's a handsome kid, though, isn't he? My
Dad,
boy.
is that you?
My boy in the back.
I was born 5 days after
I went to
you
treatment.
entered in treatment.
Really?
And here we are.
Look at this, right? Yeah,
No
generations, right?
coincidences.
No, not at all.
And another thing you were talking about, someone that that just quit drinking, right?
Right.
Great. If you can just stop and you're reasonably happy, that's great. But usually that's not my experience. If I see someone that just white knuckles it,
Right.
the reason why you call it white knuckling is because you just hold it on, right? And a thing that I like to say is that I didn't necessarily have a alcohol or drugs part of my story too. I didn't have an alcohol or drug problem. I had an alcohol and drug solution.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Life was my problem.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So if I put down the only solution maybe I ever had, and I don't replace it with anything, I'm going to be pretty freaking miserable.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Right.
Yeah.
So AA happens to be another solution.
Yeah.
There happens to be a chapter in the book called "There is a
The
Solution."
Yeah.
It's hiding in plain sight.
Yeah.
Right. And I didn't know that for a long time.
Yeah.
Permanent solution.
And there's a chapter in this book called "How It Works."
Yep.
You want to know how it works?
Great
Read it. Read it.
Great
And the
chapter.
other thing too, guys, and I'm going to get to this question I promised about the police, but another good thing about this, not a good thing about this book, but a good thing about having a sponsor, your sponsor can take you through the book. And like Mike, you said earlier, words in here are like words that I never even heard of before. And I hope people who are listening to this understand that, because if you pick this book up and read, you're like, what the fuck? I still read the book. I'm like, what the fuck does this book say? Right? Like, I have to ask my sponsor, why is it saying this? What is it saying? And so
over 80 years old.
Yeah. So walk through the book with your sponsor. Read how it works, because the solution is in definitely those two chapters, and every chapter in these books. But as a police officer, Mike, you guys had to protect us. You still do. What's your thoughts on the steps at the beginning? Because you had to turn your will and your life over to a God of your understanding. Number one, you had to make a search and fearless moral inventory of stuff. That's a force, and all these steps that make us do things so vulnerably.
Mm-hmm.
When you had a gun, a badge, you're the law. Like, how did you strip yourself down and say, okay, I'm going to do everything against what I was taught in the academy, what I was taught when I walk these streets, what I was taught when I go to a call, and apply them to myself and be vulnerable? How did you, how long did it take? And how did you do that?
Nothing really changed for me. As far as I have a lot of empathy, I have a lot of understanding of people down in their luck. I worked in a prison. I spent 3 years in the Army as a military police officer. So I had some experience, but basically being a cop's being a social worker. Yeah. I have a master's degree in social work. I understand what being a social worker is, and being a cop, that's one of your hats. You're a social worker.
Yeah.
So I always had that understanding of downtrodden people, less fortunate, long before I had sobriety, but I got to say, being sober 6 years, I had 6 years on the job when I got sober, made me a better cop, made me a better father, man, husband, everything. I mean, it just made me a better person.
Yeah.
But it definitely enhanced my career. I didn't just help cops and firemen and correctional officers, which I still do. I helped total strangers.
Yeah.
People I'd pick up in the wagon, the police wagon, as we used to call it, not the paddy wagon. I'm Irish. I don't like that. But we used to pick up, I'd pick up people in the wagon, and I would ask them if they wanted to go to a detox. I would ask them if they wanted some type of help. Even before I had sobriety myself, if a guy had pissed himself and shit himself and, was stumbling and bumbling, and I couldn't just drive by him. I'd stop and say, come here, and I'd take him in PC, protective custody. But I would ask him, I'd get them food. I'd give them something to eat.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'd give them a half a bottle. We had a desk out at the garage where the wagon parked, and it had all kinds of nips and quarter pints and half pints and pints and bottles of wine that people would turn in for the weekend, for the people locked up for weekends.
Wow.
Because
So
they
those
needed
DJs.
it. Right.
Yeah.
And the old cops, the old time
That doesn't happen
cops,
now.
Tommy O'Connell, no. But he would say, don't forget, this guy no one even brought them food. He'd say, there's a loaf of bread, bunny bread, and a pound of bologna and mustard. And he'd go around with a barrel with a plastic cover on top of it, 13 cells, and he'd make everybody a sandwich, slide it underneath. Yep.
Wow.
And what we used to call the winos, or the guys that were really in rough shape, would bring them a Dixie cup, give them a shot. Here you go.
Yeah.
And they would throw.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's go back to sleep. And that was part of being a cop. Is it right or wrong? Who knows? But I know one thing. To me, it was right because I know somebody, myself included, going through detox was very difficult.
Oh yeah.
They gave me Librium.
Yeah.
If I didn't have Librium, I might have checked out of that.
Oh yeah.
You know, you're in the profession where you help people. That's all you do. This is how we met.
Yeah.
And you know what? You know as well as I do. People get down to Genesis house and they decide. We know plenty of people that just decide they're going to leave.
Yeah.
They're done. They've been there one day.
Yeah.
And then they want their money back. And,
Yeah.
it turns into a nightmare.
Yeah.
But more importantly, they were going to have medication to help them.
Yeah.
And they were going to be able to get in a comfortable zone and then move on. Well, they couldn't even get through that. And so they leave on their own. But just imagine being locked up on a long weekend and you're a raging alcoholic.
Yeah.
And you
I
have
don't have to imagine, Mike. I've done that.
You've done it, right? You've been there,
I've
right?
done the research.
Been there, done that, yeah.
There's no cops bringing in Dixie cups
No,
on
no.
anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Multiple long weekends.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
my detox, I didn't go to a traditional detox. I would have, given anything, looking back on it, to go through a program like that.
Right.
But I detoxed in jail.
Yeah.
And, for the first 16 months of my sobriety was in jail.
Mm.
And I know a lot of people's experience is similar. I've met many people
Yeah.
that, that's
Absolutely.
finally
Many
where-
good people.
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
many great people
Yeah.
that I would trust with anything today.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm thinking of one guy who I had a problem. He's a plumber, and I called him over the house a couple times, and that guy got clean and sober out in state prison here in Massachusetts with lifers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And he tells a story, and he says, goes up to lifers. How come you doing this? Because you're never getting out of
Right.
prison. It's
Right.
not like you're doing it for the good time, make it look good for parole.
Right.
He just didn't fathom that there was people that, maybe would never see the light of day or
Right.
draw
Yeah.
a free breath, but
Yeah.
but wanted, more importantly, needed this program
That's right.
Yeah.
to live day to day.
Yeah.
Now think of that.
Yeah.
Now think of being in jail and you're going to be there the rest of your life and you get involved in a program like AA. People come in from outside, and you're getting inmate. And I've been to prisons. I've been to detoxes. I used to go on all kinds of
Yeah.
commitments.
Yeah.
But what you just said, these guys aren't getting out.
No.
And they still adhere to AA
Yeah.
because they get a spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
And they feel better about themselves in spite, because they're not going to be able to drink and drug in jail.
Yeah.
People
Well,
will say, oh, they can get
they
it
might.
here and there. Yeah, they maybe
Drugs
once
taste like shit.
Yeah.
right.
Well,
Good
yeah.
line.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that one.
Well, the other thing, guys, we have to remember that we're not bad people getting good.
Right.
Right. We're sick people getting well.
That's right.
That's what we are. We're sick people getting well. So the minute we start thinking we're bad, we're not. We made bad choices
Yeah.
when we were drinking, whatever, if it's jail, if it was whatever it was, we don't do that today working the steps. We don't do that today reading the big book, working with a sponsor, working with sponsees. Service work is hugely important. Service work is right up there with working the steps.
Yeah.
And living a good, clean life. That keeps us sober. I had somebody ask me today, what's the most important thing on one of our Friends of Recovery meetings? What's the most important thing in AA and blah, blah, and see what's going on.
Deep question.
I answered it, and I answered it honestly, because this is for me,
Right.
is service.
Yeah.
Number one thing for me anyways. And again, that's my thing. It's a suggestion. It's me. But getting service, because it doesn't matter if you're in jail, if you're a billionaire, if you're just getting by,
Right.
if you're doing the service work, you're taking care of yourself. Because once you do the service work and you see other people struggling, you're gonna want to work the steps. You're gonna want to get out there and do whatever it is, to help people stay sober. And Jeff's, we're all in the field. All three of us work in the field. We help other addicts and alcoholics professionally, and we do it personally also. But Jess, the steps to you, what does the steps mean to you, and how big are they in your life, and how important are they in your life?
Great question, Ed. The steps are a guide for living, right? I heard that so many times, and maybe people listening and watching this heard it so many times, like, yeah, whatever. But to me, they really are. My experience with them is I've had 4 sponsors in 12 years of recovery, and each sponsor, including the first one where I got in treatment, I've gone through the steps with. And it not only made me a better person, but it also helped me open up to, at one point, a potential stranger that becomes my sponsor, right? Obviously, that didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
But it's just a framework, like a logical framework to learn for me about recovery from someone who has more experience than I do.
Logical framework. I like that.
And experience doesn't necessarily mean time either.
No.
Because I've had an experience where I've had a sponsor with less time than I did.
Yeah.
Right? Time, it's not about, what do they say? It's not about quantity, it's about
Quality.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's right. And you know what's really important too is I tell everybody the same thing. I try not to say my length of sobriety. I just say when I meet somebody new, I tell them I've been sober a while. I don't want to intimidate them by saying that. But more importantly, we have one day. Yesterday's sobriety is nice, but it means nothing.
Yeah.
We can't feed off it. We can't use it. We're in today.
Yeah.
We all got today. If you're sober since you woke up this morning, we all have the same amount of time in this program. Because I know people that have been sober 30 years. A woman, her name was Alice. She lived in South Boston. She used to go to St. Bridget's 7 o'clock meeting. And she was sober over 30 years.
Wow.
She lived in a small apartment overlooking a package store on the second floor. Wow. And she was elderly, and she'd read the paper and look out the window most of her day because she didn't get out much. And right across the street was a liquor store. And for 30 years, she looked at that liquor store, and it never triggered her. And then one day, she just grabbed her pocketbook, went over, bought a bottle of cheap wine, came home, and got sloshed. And there went her 30 years of sobriety. And she started over. And she said, I'm glad I did it because the last couple of months, it's been eating at me. She goes, no matter how many meetings I've been to, she said, it's been eating at me. And I just had to do it. And she goes, why I did it is another question. I know now that I've done it, I'm probably not going to do it again. She goes, but here's somebody that religiously went to a meeting every day, who got on her knees every night, asked for help, thanked her higher power every morning when she got up, and still picked up. We're not safe, you know, whether you think you are or not. But if you're doing step meetings, big book meetings, going to meetings, doing service work, helping other people, best thing I get out of life. That's why I got my education when I was 48. I went back and got my master's degree. I had a degree in criminal justice and human services, but sitting across from somebody that I can help, and I'm getting paid for it most of the time, but there's plenty of times I don't get paid. And I'm fine with that. I feel like God's been good to me. He's given me the opportunity. I've done a lot of pro bono work. I've done as much pro bono work as I've done billing people. So, and I'm proud of that because it's not always about the dough. It really is. I'm making a call tonight at 6:30 to a young kid who was in a bad accident. Doesn't have much. I don't know if he has an alcohol drug problem. We haven't gotten to that, but he does have some psychological problems because he's bedridden now for the next several months. He's already had 5 operations on his back and his shoulder, and he needs more. But talking to him for a half hour, 40 minutes on the phone, it revs me up because I know I'm helping him. Even though I'm not face to face with him, I know I'm helping. One thing we've gotten out of this pandemic, this COVID epidemic, I think, is the ability to Zoom, to do things like we've never done before. Right. So, and I think going forward, insurance companies are going to continue to let people do Zoom meetings.
It changed.
FaceTime.
It changed our industry.
Big
It
time.
changed
Right.
AA. It changed. God, go on, guys. Go on AA.org, intergroupaa.org, whatever it is, and look at all the meetings that are on there on Zoom now. There's probably more meetings on Zoom than there
It's
are
true.
in-person meetings
That
now.
list you gave
Seriously.
me last night.
Yeah.
Looking at
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Incredible list.
yeah.
So many topics.
Yeah, it's just amazing. And what Jesse was saying earlier, just right before we talked about just saying it, is that he learned from somebody who had less time than him.
Right.
And go back to the beginning of when Tiffany and Skylar started, when Podfather retired from the podcast, and listen to Tiffany. This woman has 2 years
Right.
of sobriety, and you think this woman was had 100 years of sobriety, and I learned from her. And let me tell you, my one thing that I always say, and I live by, is that if I'm the smartest person in the room, I better get out of that room.
me
I
too.
better get out of that fucking
Me
room,
too,
man,
that's
because
right.
I'm not going to learn by preaching to anybody. And by no means do I have all the solutions and the answers. I listen to these guys. I listen, we talk about recovery, how that right before we came onto the show, we were talking about how good our lives are, and not monetarily, just spiritually. Jesse and I were talking inside about how life is so much better because we're in recovery, and we were talking spiritual, not money wise. All that other stuff comes. My therapist always told me when I'm younger, Eddie, you know what, if you put your recovery first, all that other stuff will come. It will.
It's like a trickle down effect, right?
Yeah.
For me, recovery is the most important thing in my life.
Yeah.
And by putting it up there, I'm a better husband.
Yeah.
I'm a better father. I'm a better employee, right? I'm a better student.
Yeah.
I'm on and on, better brother.
Yeah.
Right? The minute that something overtakes recovery, well, I might as well just go check myself in somewhere, because
Yeah.
it's inevitable. It's going to happen.
Oh yeah.
The
Sooner or later.
promises talk about many things that will come to us, and one of them is financial insecurity will leave us. It doesn't mean that we're not going to have financial responsibilities. It just means we're not going to obsess it. For me, it means we're not going to obsess about it.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. We'll pay our bills. There was a time I didn't pay bills.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
When I went to treatment,
Same.
Arlene took out a loan and paid off all my bills.
Yeah.
Here's a woman. We weren't even married then. And we had planned on getting married. We had a son, and we did get married, but we weren't. And she
And you're
could
still married.
right. We've been
that.
married,
Yeah.
35 years.
Yeah.
This year.
Yeah.
And it was funny. We talked about taking advice from our sponsors. I remember my sponsor saying, I forget how many months sober it was, 8 or 9. And I said, I'm getting married in November. And he said, hey, October 17th, your anniversary, and you don't make any major decisions. He goes, the first year, he goes, you're kind of making a major decision. So I ran it by Arlene. Of course, she's got the wedding all planned. She's like, you tell Jimmy to go fuck himself, because you can take all the advice you need.
Lost it.
Yeah. No, Jimmy was invited, but it wasn't I didn't want to. I did want to, but I ran it by her, and she's like, no, that's not going to fly. Sorry. We'll get married November 21st.
But they're suggestions, guys.
Right.
And there's reasons why they're suggestions, because sometimes everything doesn't fit one person. That's what's good about this program. These suggestions are meant to be taken when needed, right? When needed. Again, like I said, with the steps, I didn't work the steps until I was 2 years sober. Now, if I worked them from day one, I don't know, mate. Would I be sober? I don't know. But that's the way my sobriety has gone. And I'm not by no means am I telling you wait 2 years to work the steps, but that's just where it fit into my life.
Yep.
And then when I started taking those suggestions, things just started rocketing out. My spirituality, my life, my kids, everything really kind of went off the wall. Not off the wall, but kind of went, kind of skyrocketed.
In a good way.
In a good way, yes. In a good way.
Every vacation, every trip, every time I've ever gone anywhere, Canada, the islands, Mexico, whatever. I didn't go to a meeting in Mexico, but I'd always, on a cruise ship, I'd always see friends of Bill W. a meeting in this room, and Ali was great. I mean, I could go to a meeting anytime I wanted. Never had any type of resistance from her at all. Zero.
Yeah.
Which made it so much easier, because I do have clients, like Jesse said earlier, you're an alcoholic or a drug addict, and now you're going to go hang around with alcoholics and drug addicts, and they're going to say, have a good night.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Right.
What
All
are you
the
doing?
worrying and everything.
Yeah. Well, that's just where Al-Anon comes in. Our spouses have to understand that we're a different breed of people. And then they start understanding, okay, well, maybe I should try to figure this out for myself too, because I'm not married to a normal person, or my brother's not, sister, mother, father, whatever. is not a normal person.
Normal's a setting on a washing machine.
Exactly. Yes. That's the only normal in this
In
world.
my house.
Exactly. Yeah. But we all have to learn to work together. We all have to kind of, again, like I said, AA is kind of a great program because it fits everybody. What's the saying? AA is like an adjustable wrench. It fits every nut in the room.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
every
true.
nut.
Yeah. There's a wrench for every nut. And so my program isn't the same as Mike's or Jesse's. And if we worked each other's program, we'd probably be drunk. You know what I mean? Right. So there's a reason for this. And the steps and the big book, I view differently than probably these guys in this car view it. But we come out with the same results, and it's called sobriety, right? We come out being sober. We come out being a healthy person that doesn't do the shit we did when we were using, wrecking lives, ending up in jail, bullshitting our employers, whatever it was, stealing from our family. I mean, I remember stealing from my family when we were on food stamps. I'm stealing money to go get cocaine. Right. I mean, how that's the definition of insanity right there. Food stamps, and I'm taking money from the family to go buy coke. I mean, it's just insane, Yeah. Today, I don't do that. We, like you said, we pay our bills. Sometimes we struggle. Yeah, of course. But that's the good problems to have today. Right. Because we know, okay, well, we can't go out to dinner, but we can put it towards this bill, or we have to pay that down, or this or whatever. And it's those decisions that we can make today. Because of my program, I can do that today without getting upset, saying, "Oh, what do you mean I can't go out to dinner? I want to fucking go out to dinner. Fuck that bill." Right? I mean, that doesn't happen anymore. I think it once in a while, but
I think it's important too that when you raise a family, when you get older, 68 is not young. When you're on the final turn of your life, the back nine. I look at
Mike's book.
The back nine, yeah.
And you look and you say, look at your kids. My youngest is 28, my oldest is 46, and my son is 36. And today is my daughter-in-law's birthday, Claire's birthday. And it's such a pleasure knowing that they've known me and that I've been there for them and helped them any way I could, as best I could, without any obstacles in the way. They didn't have to worry if dad was coming home and dad was drunk or dad took off or dad whatever. I was always there. And that, what a gift. Mm-hmm. And then to see the children I have and the grandchildren I have, amazing. And I wonder if I would have noticed this even if I was a social drinker. I don't think I would have noticed it as much as I do.
No, I wouldn't have meant as much.
No. And that's and I like how you brought that up, Mike. And you're right, Jesse. It wouldn't have meant as much as that we concentrate on our lives. Most people don't have to concentrate on being a good person. I shouldn't even say a good person, but being upstanding, not making being a citizen, making the right decisions. It just comes naturally to some people. But with us as addicts and alcoholics, we always have that default that we want to go to, right? As, okay, well, what is it? What's in it for me, right? What's in it for me? Right. That's not like that anymore.
Scamming.
Yeah. Quick story to your point, Ed. The other day I had to get a rental car because my car's in the shop. And I came home with this big hulk of a truck that, I had no business. I don't need it. I just wanted it, right? And I looked at my wife and she goes, where'd you get that from? I told Laurel I stole it. Just like that, right? Now
the
today,
default, right?
What's that?
The default.
Yeah, exactly. Today, that's not my default.
No.
12 years ago, that was my default.
Yeah.
And I would pick her up in stolen cars.
Yeah.
And lie about it to her until she gets in and say, "Oh yeah, it's my friend's car." And then as I'm driving away, "Oh yeah, by the way, it's not mine. Don't leave any prints." Right. And that was part of the chaos. And we did wipe it down. We got really good at it. That was part of, I'm still paying back one of them. It's Liberty Mutual. That was part of the
who is not a sponsor of the show either.
Who is not a sponsor of the show. But just real quick, that's too long a story. Real quick. To Ed's point a little while ago, normal people, whatever that is, if you meet one that they're like unicorns, I guess.
Yeah.
I've always heard of these normal people, but everyone has problems. Not alcoholics.
Absolutely.
They don't have to focus on being a citizen like I do, like Ed does, like Mike does.
Right.
And that makes, as Mike was talking about his kids and his grandkids, I got choked up back here.
Yeah.
My kids never seen me drunk or high. My kids know what it means when daddy says I'm doing something,
Right.
I'm going to do it.
Yes.
I have 3 kids. That's crazy to even think
Yeah.
of, right?
Work.
Grace
Yeah.
is 5.
Yeah.
Wow.
Grace,
Yeah.
I wanted to name her that. Laurel
Yeah.
let
Right.
me name her that.
That's
It was a
nice.
mutual
Yeah.
decision, but it's the grace of God that we even have kids.
Right.
And, you know, Maddie's 3, and my son Jesse Jr. is 28 days old.
Wow.
And
Brand new baby.
hopefully-
Just seen a picture of him too.
Yeah.
He's handsome.
Well, of course,
Doesn't
he
look like
looks
his
me.
dad.
No.
Yes, he does. He does look like you. Yes.
That's just, you know, when we're sitting around last night playing a board game after dinner, that's the stuff that,
Yeah.
revs me up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because I know in an alternate universe,
That's
or whatever, if I
That's
if I
right.
didn't get sober,
That's right.
those kids wouldn't be alive,
No.
or if they were, I
Be a
wouldn't be in their life,
shit life,
and
yeah.
just continue to
That's right.
create the chaos, right?
Yeah.
You know, and I could just go on
Yeah.
and on about
Yeah.
the joy, the simple joys
Oh,
of
yeah.
playing Candyland
Yeah.
after eating pizza
Oh yeah. Simple.
with little
Yeah.
kids,
Yeah.
and just knowing,
Yeah.
you know, it means so much more to me
Yeah.
and Laurel, because
Yeah.
she's visited me in jail.
Yeah.
She's got picked up in stolen cars. She's seen all the shit
Yeah.
and how bad it could have been.
Yeah.
So here we are playing a board game like fucking citizens
Yeah.
in a house that we own.
Like Beaver
Right,
Cleaver.
the Beaver Cleaver, right?
Yeah, right.
And it could have been so much different, but
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah.
Well,
And-
there's
and you-
that chaos isn't in your life anymore. A board game is
Exactly.
a simple thing. You know, we thrived on that, stealing the car, you know, telling lies, cheating, stealing, all that stuff. And you know, I have a similar story that just happened last week, and I had a dilemma about it. Right, but just doing the right thing. I'm in the mall. I'm walking up the mall. There's nobody around. I see this wad of paper on the ground, and I look and get closer. I'm like, oh shit, that's money, right?
Yeah.
So I picked it up. And my first instinct was, all right, well, who's around? Let me see. First of all, who's
Yeah.
around? Just let me see me pick it up. That's
Yeah.
number one, right?
Look for security
Yeah,
cameras.
exactly. Number two, I'm like, I got to find a person who
Yep.
owns this, because it wasn't a lot, but it could have been a lot to somebody,
Right,
you
right,
know? And I'm thinking to myself, all right, well, what do I do with it? So I put it in my pocket. I'm asking people. I'm walking around 10 minutes. I couldn't find anybody. Nobody lost the money. And now it's in my pocket. I'm like, then I start thinking, well, I guess it's
Yeah.
mine. I'm going to
Go
go buy
out
some
to dinner.
lottery tickets,
Yeah,
go out
yeah.
to dinner, blah, blah, blah. So I said, I can't do that. So all the way home, it was an hour and a half ride home. And it's like burning me, like, what the fuck? Now I'm so far away from this mall. I'm never going to get the money back to these
Right.
people. And I'm like, I felt bad. Like, what do I do?
You don't know who dropped it.
No, I don't.
So if anyone listening or
Right.
watching,
Yeah, if you
drop
lost the
some
money
money,
in the mall,
Ed
yeah, I
Chancho.
got it. So what I decided to do was, I go to church on Sundays, and I decided to put it in the envelope, and I was going to write my name on it. I'm like, fuck, that's not my money to write my name on.
So
So
you just donated?
I wrote it on there, where it said from a friend and a friend in recovery.
Wow,
That's
nice.
what I wrote on there.
Nice.
And I didn't take no recognition for it.
Good.
And I didn't really want to
Right.
tell the story, but I think this is a perfect opportunity
Yeah.
to tell people that when you do the right thing will
Right,
happen.
right.
And I'm not looking for anything back, but you know what the right thing was? When I dropped it in that
Yeah.
giving basket, I was free. I was free from it. I didn't have to say, am I going to do this with it? Am I going to do that with it? Am I, all good intentions.
Right.
Like maybe I can buy my wife something with it. Maybe I can buy the kids something with it. But that's not what it was
But even
for.
if you did, every time you saw that thing you bought someone
Yeah, I didn't mean
with
to
that
feel
money,
right.
you bring
Yeah.
that back and be like, "Oh, that
Exactly.
wasn't
Yeah,
here,"
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So,
So-
even if it's a good intention,
Yeah.
it's still
Yeah.
eating us up inside.
Yeah. I was having I spoke to Carl about it, and he said you did the right thing, because on SoberPod they talked about it when I was
Right.
running, like right before I went to church. When I was on my run, I listened to SoberPod, and they talked about it. Like,
Right.
if you find money on the ground,
Yeah.
what do you do with it? I was like, holy fuck, man, these
Right.
guys,
Right.
they watch me. SoberPod
Head right
watch
off the
me.
road.
I was like, holy shit. But I was telling Carl about it, and then I said I was going to go buy lottery tickets. And he goes, yeah, with your luck, you would have won a couple million.
Right.
And you would have to feel guilty every time you spend all that fucking money, I was like, yeah, you're right. So I'm glad I gave it away.
I pulled into McDonald's 3 weeks ago on a Saturday. I opened an AA meeting up in Salem, and it was 6:45, and I get a coffee and a sausage sandwich, cheese McMuffin, sausage and cheese. So
And McDonald's is not a sponsor either.
no,
Not a sponsor either. A lot of non-sponsors.
Yeah, a lot of non-sponsors
this is
today.
in Tewksbury on Route 38, and I look out my window and I see a bill, a currency bill, and I know it's not a dollar bill because it's got all kinds of printing on it. Well, it was $100 bill.
Oh shit.
So all I could think of is somebody probably half in the bag opens up their wad,
Oh,
It's
yeah.
right before the register. So I scooped it up. I go, I thought it was a 20, and I go, it's a $100 bill. Are you kidding me? So I go into the store now. I get my stuff and I go in and I grab the manager, the girl, and I said, "Hey, has anyone talked about losing any money or come in today?" She didn't want to talk. She's like so busy. She goes, "No. Why?" I said, "I'm just wondering." She said, "No." I said, "All right." So I drive up here, and it's funny how we think now.
Yeah.
Years ago, that would have been right
Oh,
in the
yeah.
pocket. No,
Went to
you
the
know,
dope man with $100.
right? Even if
man.
someone
Yeah.
dropped it, I wouldn't have told them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But
But
it's-
well enough to look for it.
But it was really eating at me. And then I thought to myself, you know what? There's been many times I've been in meetings and groups, and I hear people, and they don't even have money for gas, and I give them 20. I'm giving out more $20 bills than if my wife knew, she'd be upset, you know. But I just can't help it. I feel so. I thought, you know what? I'm getting paid back. You know, I'm not going to go looking for the owner of this. I did the best I could,
Yeah.
and I held on to the 100 for about 6 hours, I guess. And that was it. I spent it. I stopped right here with two guys. I bought $50 worth of cigars and I got gas. So that $100 bill
$50 in gas.
came in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It gave you half a tank now.
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
what the
that's
hell's
about it,
going on? But this is some of the blessings of recovery. You know what? Maybe you didn't donate it to church, and that's okay.
No, that's
but we
fine.
thought about it, right?
Yeah.
We didn't run to the dope guy. We
Exactly.
didn't run to the
Right.
beer
That
store.
store.
We didn't. Yeah.
No.
We didn't do. Yeah.
Right.
Mike went and looked for the person.
Sure,
you
I
know
did.
what
I gave it an effort.
Yeah,
Anyway, you know?
yeah. And like Jesse, you just said, in my addiction, I'd steal it from you and I'd help you fucking look for it. And I can't tell you how many times I did that.
Yeah.
I stole shit from
Yeah.
my parents, and they're like, "Where is it?" I don't know, Mom. Maybe it was over here.
Right.
And fucking meanwhile, you know, I
in your
bought a
pocket.
fucking 8
Oh, it's
ball
already
with it
spent.
already.
One
you
of
know?
one of my amends was going to a guy that owned the sub shop, a Greek guy, nice guy. And I used to go in there in the cruiser and I'd say, "Steve, can I use your phone?" "Yeah, Mike, go ahead." You know, and I go back and it'd have his bank envelope there and it'd be flush with cash, his deposit envelope. There'd be $2,000-3,000 in it. And I'd take 20 or 40 bucks
Yeah.
out of it. And then I'd go do what I had to do. And so this thing ate at me like you wouldn't believe. So one of my amends was I had $300. I figured that's at least the amount I took from him. And I didn't have a lot of money at the time, but I went to him during the day, and it was like an episode of a comedy show. You know, he's Greek. His second language is English. I'm like, "Steve, I got to tell you something. Mike, how you doing? I haven't seen you." I said, "I know, but I need to tell you something. I took money from you and I want to pay you back." And I'm giving him the money. They had it in a bank envelope. And he's like, "You need money?" I said, No. I'm giving you back the money." "Mike, you hungry? You want a sandwich?" He didn't want to have no part of it. He wouldn't have any part. So I left the envelope. He chased me outside. He put it in my pocket. He said, "If you ever need money, you come see me." I'm like, "You don't understand."
Well,
But I think he did understand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was the hardest of all the, and I've talked about this in my group with total strangers that just came in. That was one of the hardest amends I ever made. And I had to be pleased with it. I didn't want to not leave the money, but he wouldn't take it.
Yeah.
And you know what? I kind of had to live with it afterwards. But every time I drive by there, even to this day, he's retired. He sold it. I think his son runs it now.
He's a billionaire now. He sold
Boy,
it.
oh boy. You talk about feeling sleazy.
I know. But we don't have to feel that way today. You know what I mean? Because of our recovery.
And because of doing
Yeah.
the steps. You know, I've only
Yeah.
done the steps once. I went to an AWOL program.
Yeah.
AWOL is an acronym for A Way of Life.
Yeah.
My good friend Tommy Quinn, who's been sober a long time, he won't mind me saying his last name. He got me involved in an AWOL program. He gave me a book this thick, a notebook of all the things we were going to do. I'm like, I'm overwhelmed. I'm like, "You gotta be kidding me. I really want to do this." And we went every week for 12 weeks, 3 months.
Mhm.
We did this. And you know what? It was the best thing in AA. And I've been on retreats. I've been to meetings in all kinds of places all over the world, Ireland, Canada. But more importantly, that AWOL program really put me in tune with who I really am.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'm pleased with who I am. I'm not patting myself on the back by no means,
Yeah.
but at least I can live with myself. There
Yeah.
was a time when we were active could you live with yourself? I hated I
Yeah,
wanted
you
to
woke
kill
up in
myself.
the mirror, brushing your teeth. You're
fucking
like,
hated
I can't
myself.
shave today because
Right.
matter of fact, I had a
Right.
beard because I couldn't look at myself that
Yeah.
long
Right.
in the mirror because of the shit things that I did. You know,
Right.
I mean, I wake up and not say good morning to my wife, and I look in the mirror, I'm like, oh, what a shitty person I am. So I'll go in there, hug and kiss her, and
Right.
then and I feel much better. You know, it's thinking of others today. You know, Jesse said it a while ago in the podcast. I have to put my sobriety first. I have to put
Right.
me first. But when I do that, that's when all that other good stuff goes on. Yeah, the trickle down effect. So, guys, I think this is a great podcast.
Yeah, it was a good podcast.
Yeah,
I really
I
enjoyed it.
hope you guys learned a lot. I know we didn't talk about step 4, but we are in the month of April. It is step 4.
Yep.
Please listen to the show. We are going through all the steps each month. Every month of every step is of each month. And this month we're on step 4. I got this idea from SoberPod.
Yep.
A shout out to Carl and everything. If you guys go back to listen to SoberPod, go back to their 2019 series. They do this too. They do it a little differently. But please listen to them too, and continue listening to us. Friends in Recovery.
Yeah.
I was going to say SoberPod again.
Right.
I'm not part of SoberPod.
Not a
But
sponsor.
not a sponsor.
Right.
SoberPod is not a sponsor for the show, but we love them. So, but just kind of work these steps into your life. I've been learning a lot. Doing this on the steps. I've been studying harder than I ever did when I was in school doing this,
Yep.
doing these podcasts on the steps. So I encourage you guys to listen. Also like, subscribe, share, and comment below. Let us know about your journey in life. Let us know how the steps affected your life. Send us an email at help@friendsinrecoverypodcast.com and let us know. We can read them on the air if we want. The next show you'll see is going to be with Tiffany and Skylar. Next week, that'll be on step 4 also, and surprise guests along the way, and maybe Jesse will pop in, maybe the Podfather will be on one day too. So
I don't think so.
I don't think so. This FIR
I'm
from
just
the
kidding.
car, that is what Podfather loves to
Yeah, we
do.
do
So
this. This is good. And
Yeah.
real quickly, I just want to
Yeah.
say, as hard as you work, I mean, your whole life is involved in your profession, helping people, and your personal life is helping people. And it's really good for my soul to when you do come up here and we do something like this. So just get together and talk. But to do a podcast from the car, relive some old memories.
do.
And it's really good to see where Friends in Recovery is right now. It's a community. It's really taken off.
It's a community.
great.
It's adventures. We're doing sober stuff in the outdoors, camping trips, kayaking,
The first thing I did
snowshoeing.
this year. Your New
Yes.
Year's Eve
Yes.
meeting
Yeah.
timed perfectly where
Yeah.
at midnight,
Yeah.
boom.
Yeah.
First thing I did in 2022, and I think there was like 5 or 6 different states
Yeah.
on there. People
Yeah.
all zoomed.
So
and
cool.
it was just
Yeah, and I just want to give her a shout out too, because she is without a doubt. Skylar's got to be without a doubt. She's like a saint,
amazing. Yeah.
Love the girl's energy, that $1 million smile.
Yeah.
Her heart is as big as the outdoors. She's just
Yeah.
wonderful.
She's
And
amazing.
it's so good. It's so good to have someone like her, involved with what you're doing.
Yeah,
Because
we surround ourselves with like-minded people,
Yep.
right? And that's how we stay sober. You
That's
guys, it's a we program, not an I program, and I know each one of you guys in this car right now would not let me fail.
no,
Would not let me fail at all, right? I mean, you guys would, and same thing. I would not let you guys fail. I'd be there for you guys, morning, noon, or
Yep.
night. It doesn't matter, and anybody in recovery. So, Jess, do you have anything in closing before we close?
just one quick thing on step 4. If you're sitting there, if you're reading this, if you can't read this, if you're hearing this and you're like, yeah, it just sounds like too much work, or like Mike said, it's overwhelming, and just know that there's no pain that's not going to be repaid with grace.
Yes. Yeah.
There's no amount of work. Ed said he was studying harder than he ever did in school, which maybe I won't go there.
Which couldn't be that hard.
Could be
because-
that hard, but
Yeah.
he's still studying harder, so we can give him credit for that. Just know that step 4 isn't about beating ourselves.
No.
It isn't about beating ourselves up.
No.
It's about looking for patterns with different areas of my life so that I learn from them and I don't repeat them again.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I can't tell you how many times on my step 4, I just saw a truck hit a curb, squirrel, that
as long as it hit us,
they didn't hit us, thank God.
because that would be a resentment. I have to add it to my list.
Add it to more stuff. the names and the places changed, but the actions that I was doing, I kept repeating
Yeah.
the wrong action.
Yeah.
It didn't give me anything.
Yeah.
And today I'm comfortable in my own skin because I've learned from that. And do I make mistakes? You bet I make mistakes. But now I can learn from it. I don't have to make the same mistake twice. And that pattern for this alcoholic and drug addict started by doing the 4th step and getting that stuff down and sharing it with someone else just that wanted to help me, that didn't want to, belittle me or beat me up anymore. Then I already was beating myself up because we're our own worst critics, right?
Yeah.
But to get on a path where I'm no longer making bad decisions, for that, the entrance to that path for me was step 4.
Yeah, I
so
agree.
if you haven't done it before, if you're in the middle of it like I was, and you're just putting it off, just do it.
Yeah.
You're only going to be better.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Jess. And Podfather, before you take
Yeah,
us out,
just,
what about you?
Just if you're new or you're just coming back or you've been around a while, just think how important it is to live one day at a time, one 24-hour block at a time. Get up in the morning, whatever your higher power is. I get a lot of resistance from people about God and whatever. That's fine. It doesn't matter. A group of drunks. Just make AA your higher power. If you have a problem with a God or something, you probably get deeper problems than you think.
Yeah.
Watch a sunset, watch a full moon, go to the ocean and just watch the ocean. Something greater than us put this all here for us, whether you want to believe it or not. Scientifically, fine. If you're scientifically minded, that's fine too. The universe is an amazing place. It's scary, it's so amazing. But if you can live one day at a time without picking up a drink or a drug, that's all you got to do. Don't worry about yesterday. Can't worry about tomorrow. It may not come. You might not make it to tomorrow. Keep it in the day. And another thing, if you're thinking of picking up and you have some sobriety, there's no guarantee you're going to get back. I've seen people that were in the program for a long time go out and never come back. It's only going to get worse out there. Progression is real. If you stop drinking and you are pissing your pants, sleeping in the gutter drunk, and 10 years later you're a millionaire with all kinds of wonderful things, and you pick up, not long, it's not going to take a long time for you to go back to where you were. Progression walks beside us as we're getting sober.
Amen.
It'll
Brother.
stay in the shadows,
Amen.
but you pick up and you'll see it. And I've seen it too many times not to believe it. So
Amen.
one day at a time, stay sober. If you need anything, you can contact Ed and get in touch with the Podfather, Jesse, or Jersey Ed.
Yep. Stay sober, everybody.
Bye.
This concludes this episode of Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast. Follow us on Facebook for past shows and updates, and enjoy free access to twice daily support meetings. Friends in Recovery, the Addiction Recovery Podcast, is available on Facebook, Podbean, iTunes, and YouTube 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.